Hi, everybody. Welcome to the MenoLounge. I'm Julie Gordon-White, CEO of MenoWell High Fiber and Protein Bars. We have a really important, interesting, and I'm going to say exciting topic today and guest. I'm just going to bring her up right now. Let's see. I see you there, Dr. Rhonda. Let me bring you up right here. I'll scoot back. Give her some room.
Hello.
Hello,
Can you hear me?
Dr. Rhonda. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for
I
having
am
me.
great. Super excited. I know, do the hair thing, right? We always have to
Yes,
do the hair
yeah.
thing because it's what we do.
So we do.
Like you. I'm like you when we got the hair going. I'm
Yeah.
so excited to be with you today. To formally just introduce you, Dr. Rhonda Voskuhl. Did I say that right? I want to say
It's
that.
Voskuhl. Voskuhl.
Voskuhl, who you are a neuroscientist from UCLA, University of California, Los Angeles. I went to UC Davis, by the way, so
Oh,
cool, UC Davis.
you see.
UC, specializing in all things the brain, menopause. I know you also have a specialty in multiple sclerosis. You're world renowned. And I was in the audience when you were on Oprah.
Oprah. Yeah, she's great. That was a great show. Raised
That was
awareness, right?
great show. And I have to say, I'm not just saying this because you're on the MenoLounge, but I loved what you said on the show. I thought it was very interesting and something I had not heard before, having been in this space for 5 years. I had not heard exactly the way you talked about the brain and menopause. I know we have a lot of discussion. Dr. Lisa Mosconi, who we love, also very prominent in this area, but you've done some really neat things. You're world renowned. You've been in this space for over 20 years. You're an inventor. You have over 20 patents. Is that right? I love
Yeah,
an
yeah.
entrepreneur. And started CleopatraRX, which is a hormone therapy that specializes in supporting the brain and brain fog, right?
Exactly right.
So exciting. Well, let's just jump in. First of all, let's talk about why you called your company CleopatraRX, because I think it's really neat.
Well, Cleopatra was both beautiful and smart. And so we are focused on the smart part of it,
I love
the
it.
brain. But
Perfect.
estrogens make it keep us all beautiful too, which we all
That's
know.
awesome.
But
We
we're
don't
saying
mind
make
that part of it. Yeah, that's
That's
the
we don't mind
bonus
that. But we're trying
aspect
to
of it.
say, it's always important for women to be smart and maintain their memory, be able to work and do the things they really need to do. So we're more than these beautiful bodies. We also have a brain.
I'll say we need that brain. I was just thinking to myself, we're doing a lot of things on the back end of MenoWell right now. And it's like I am working my brain like a 40-year-old with a 60-year-old organ up here, and so I'm really excited about this topic. So tell us what is going on here with our brain as estrogen, as our hormones decline and fluctuate during perimenopause to post.
Yeah, great question. So I am the neurologist, the founding neurologist of the UCLA Comprehensive Menopause Program. That is a bunch of GYNs who get experts in various areas. And the reason, because menopause is known to be bad, not just for the GYN things, but it's also bad for bone, metabolism,
Yeah.
skin, breast. It's bad for the brain. And
Cardiovascular.
so yeah, exact cardiovascular, heart. So we have all those. And so coming in as the brain person, so I've been really, what you said is so true, because if you ask women, 70% have cognitive issues of menopause. Nobody's bothered to ask, but it's a very prevalent issue, and it's not been addressed with any treatments yet. We're doing it, targeting the cognitive issues of menopause. What are they exactly? They are not decreased IQ. Women are just as smart as they ever were, and it's not certain cognitive domains, but it is others. Those others include problems with verbal memory. Can't think of the word. You're giving a talk like you've got to think, you've got to be able to speak. Lawyers, doctors, teachers, we have to be able to speak, and we can't have our confidence undermined by not being able to think of the word in a
Right.
boardroom. Other things, focus, concentration, getting interrupted and lose your train of thought. So it's not global, but it is these cognitive domains. And they do undermine women both at work and at home, because they also have problems with memory. Like the kids will say, Mom, I told you that yesterday. Well, this isn't good. And so it's very important for women both at work and at home to be able to maintain all these functions. It's
Mhm.
been missed probably because it's not global. The other thing, and it's not like they're demented. And if you do a formal cognitive testing, these things have been mapped. It's known that they'll do 90 percentile, 90 percentile, 90 percentile, they'll do 70 percentile. And they say, well, that's it. Verbal memory. I'm not as good as I was. That's right. And so
Mhm.
they know it. It's not like, it's going to reach a clinically significant deficit like some of the Alzheimer's. That's not the case. We'll talk about later whether it can or can't lead to that or increase your risk 20 years later. But right now, the menopausal women have cognitive domain specific problems. And again, it's also, I want to say, it's not just they're complaining about things because, or like, I can't sleep and I'm tired. Well, yes, that's true. And I do believe sleep is important. And I believe that obviously cognition is better the next day, but it's more than that because some women don't have hot flashes anymore. They go away after 3 to 5 years, but they have cognitive worsening. And a lot of it gets worse at 60, 61, 62. They're not having hot flashes anymore, and they're still
Right.
having cognitive issues, and they're getting worse, not better.
And
The
it's
bot,
scary
it's
also
very scary.
because as we age, you start thinking, is this dementia related? Asking for a friend,
No,
because
you're exactly right. So two areas that I'm going to say is there's the brain imaging that's important. I know Muscati does some things with PET imaging. We and other groups have done a lot with structural imaging of the brain, and it shows that again, it's not whole brain atrophy, like Alzheimer's, for example. It's not the whole brain, but what it is, it's areas. It's called hippocampus and frontal cortex. These are just areas, but guess what? Lo and behold, they are related to verbal memory, train of thought. So when you do whole MRIs, they won't have global brain atrophy. It'll be diluted out with all the parts that are not affected. But they do have these region-specific problems. So it's cognitive task-specific problems, and it's regions of the brain, not the whole brain, not all tasks.
mm,
Now, the question you went straight to the bottom line really is there's two issues. The one's the short term.
mhm,
Can we fix this short term by having a novel estrogen, an HRT plus, which I'd say it does all the things of HRT plus, it protects the brain. That's
mm,
what we have at CleopatraRX. That's the patents, and
mhm,
that's in the short term. We can make them feel better within 12 months, just like we did in the multiple sclerosis patients. We're seeing it yet again. I've done this for decades. So the question, though, is in addition to helping them in the short term, like within 12 months, now they can get their brains back, their memory's better, their processing speed, they're not losing their train of thought, so they can get back to who they were with their functioning. And that's very important. But your question is a big one, and that's what happens in the long term. That's not known yet. So what happens, though, with Alzheimer's disease, we know every memory ward is full of a bunch of women in a nursing home. Just look around. It's a bunch of
right,
women.
right.
And it's not just because they live longer, because you can actually correct for longevity or living a few years extra. You can correct for age, and it's still two-thirds women get Alzheimer's disease. Well,
Right.
why is that? Well, it could be either X chromosome genes bad, or it could be loss of estrogen that's neuroprotective is bad. It could be either one, or it could be both.
Mm,
Now, the way I see it is the Alzheimer's field is focused on. Now, they've learned that it's very hard to find treatments at the late stages of Alzheimer's disease.
right.
And so what they're doing, they're focused on the early stage. The earliest of stages is called mild cognitive impairment. It's the 10 years prior to Alzheimer's disease, where people are having just one little thing go off or this got off. It's very small, just a few things. And so I'm saying, well, okay, Alzheimer's disease, what's 10 years prior to that is mild cognitive impairment. What's 10 years prior to that? It's women who have cognitive issues of menopause.
Right. It's menopause, and that's why it's
That's
so
right.
confusing and scary.
It is scary. And the other thing that's scary is part of the region that's affected predominantly early, even in menopause, is the hippocampus.
Mm,
It's this region specific problem that happens in menopausal women. So do I know that having brain issues untreated, these cognitive issues of menopause lead to mild cognitive impairment, which later lead to Alzheimer's disease in 15 or 20 years? I don't know. I can tell you right now, though, there is a big study in Europe that's looking at that. So they are taking women, not just are they demented, it's not about whole brain, it's not about dementia. It's about, do these very focal lesions things that happen in the brain, do they lead to 10 years later in the same person followed longitudinally for 20 years? We won't
mm,
know for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But you know what the thing is, I will say as a scientist,
Mm-hmm.
even when if they do that study, and it's not going to be all of them, but the question will be, does it increase their risk by 10, 20% or not if they've had untreated cognitive issues of menopause? That's the question. I'm not saying 70% of women are going to get Alzheimer's disease, but I'm
Right.
saying it is a prominent problem, and we do need to find the early risk factors so that we can modify those and do something about them.
Okay, so let
Um,
me ask you, in being the doctor that I play on Instagram on Tuesdays, I'm just kidding. Thinking about that whole generation plus of women, like my mom, who's in her 80s, still has all of her thinking and cognitive ability, a little memory loss, but not much, who did not take hormone replacement because her doctor told her not to. I just have this feeling, non-scientific, of course, that these women who didn't have any hormone therapy are going to be at a higher risk because they have no estrogen in their brain all this time. And now, could that be why more women have dementia, etc., because they missed out on that estrogen
I completely
opportunity?
agree with you. We're going to be menopausal from the age of 50 to 85. We're going to live long lives. We're going to live to the long lives. But to have no estrogen, knowing it's neuroprotective, it's been shown for decades that it's protective in mice, cats, humans, all kinds of different systems. It's protective. And
Mm,
so to go without it for so many years, this is a much bigger problem than perimenopausal hot flashes. I think they're fine, but we have a treatment for that. It's called estradiol patch. It's used for hot flashes. That's what it's the FDA approved for. It has not been designed to help the brain for cognition. And I
mm,
don't think it ever will be, because
mm,
you probably know that the FDA panel has removed the black box warning from estradiol, the one of the
right,
old WHI studies. It's that estradiol patch.
right.
They removed the warning. I think it was certainly appropriate to remove it from vaginal estradiol, because that's not going to get into your blood to be high enough to protect your brain or to cause breast cancer, either one. But the fact of the matter is, when you take the estradiol patch, it's estradiol. And estradiol is really good for hot flashes. This FDA approved for that. The problem is the biology will never change. I don't care how many papers come out about the old WHI studies from the 90s. It will never change the fact that estradiol binds strongly to estrogen receptor alpha in the breast. And that's the
That's
receptor
the
that,
question, right? That's what
that's,
women are afraid of.
that's
So
right.
what's the
That's,
difference with the receptor that binds to the breast versus receptor that binds to the brain?
well, you are on it. You are just so on this. I don't know. UC Davis or somebody taught you to do your homework, because
I
you're
did my
just always,
homework. Yeah.
you've really got the main questions. So that is the whole point of the patents, actually, what you just said. And that is what I said as a neurologist. I said, look, we've got a long-term problem with brain. It's a slow degeneration that happens. We can't just, with estradiol, they give it, the GYNs give it for hot flashes, not for cognition. They give it the lowest dose possible for the shortest duration possible. And it's usually 3 to 5 years. And they go, those hot flashes go away on their own anyway. And so I said, well, this is a bigger problem than that. We've got to get people all the way through, and that drug will never work. And so I started to say, well, how
Mm,
can we find a drug that is not estrogen, a different estrogen? That's the thing. Estrogen is a layman's term. They're not all alike. There's estradiol, which is the patch. It binds very strongly to estrogen receptor alpha in the breast. That's the breast cancer receptor that is blocked with tamoxifen treatment for breast cancer. There's no way it's good to stimulate that continuously for decades. There's no way. And we know that's why it's not done. So I said, well, for this, we've got to have something different. And so what I did, I went back to, this is my MN multiple sclerosis hat that I wore
mhm,
2 decades ago. It's really interesting. So women that have multiple sclerosis, it also affects women more than men. And it's also a neurodegenerative disease as it goes on. Those women with MS, they get worse during menopause. But you know what makes them better?
mm.
When they're pregnant. And when they're pregnant, their MS goes into remission. When they've got more pregnancies as opposed to few, they have less disability. And I said, what is so good about pregnancy in these MS women? Well, you know what? They have a different estrogen. It's called
Mm.
estriol. Estriol is a different estrogen than estradiol. It's made by the fetal placental unit there. So we don't have it until we're pregnant. Then we have it, and it goes very, very
That's not the
high.
one we put on our face, is it?
Yes, it is.
That's what I
Estriol is the
thought.
one you put on your face. And
Okay.
I'm okay with that. It
Yeah,
is
yeah.
good for the skin. I don't think well, I know you won't get enough through your skin's a barrier by definition, so you won't get enough into your
You
deep
can't
layers.
just put it on your face and rub
No,
it on your scalp and
you're
get
not
into
going to
your
get enough
brain,
in your
right?
blood to help your brain by doing the creams. And that's why they give estradiol as the patch as well. The
Yeah.
estradiol cream will help your skin, but it's not going to be enough to help your brain or hurt your breast. But anyway, so I'm fine with the creams, but they're for skin. Now,
Good.
So anyway, with the MS women, it's really interesting. So I focused on this unique estrogen called estriol, not estradiol, because women with MS got so much better, and they had less. They had improved. So what happened was I focused on that one. I said, you know what's so interesting about it? Everybody said, oh, it's weak. It's a weak estrogen. I said, well, it's weak. It's weak for estrogen receptor alpha in the breast binding, but it binds a different estrogen receptor. It binds the estrogen receptor beta in the brain, a different estrogen receptor. And I said, that's it. Now we've got a receptor we can target for efficacy, for brain protection, one receptor in the brain, and it binds weakly to the one in the breast. That's the window of opportunity. And so that's what I spent decades doing. And we did it. We did trials in women with MS, and we showed that when we treat them with estriol, not estradiol, we showed that we could basically they had cognitive improvement. So it wasn't just a slowing of the decline, it was actually improvement from bad to better. And we showed that in 12 months of taking it. And the other thing was that we showed that these are all publications in high impact scientific journals. So, and funded by the NIH. So the other thing we showed was when you do MRIs of the brain, it showed that the atrophy that occurs in the certain areas associated with cognition, it doesn't happen as much in those women on estriol compared to placebo. And the last thing, there was a blood marker for neurodegeneration that it also fixed. So we've got clinical MRI and blood marker data that it was neuroprotective when you treat for 12 months with estriol in the MS women. So then I said, a few years ago, I said, wow, I mean, there's these women out there and they're afraid to take estradiol, and they should be, because it's good for hot flashes, but it's more than that. It's also got cognitive issues. Now we've got something I've discovered from MS, and that could be useful in healthy women that have menopause and they're worried about their brain and cognition and future Alzheimer's. So that's what we've been doing at CleopatraRX. CleopatraRX licensed the UCLA patents that I'm the inventor on. I work for UCLA, and I co-founded CleopatraRX as another option for women. They need more than something we've talked about since the 1990s and go back and forth about estradiol. Yes, no, yes, no. The pendulum goes back and forth. I'm like, why don't we go to the next generation and create something new? That's a different estrogen that doesn't bind the breast cancer receptor, and it can actually protect the brain.
Wow. And has this been used in Europe?
Yes. Oh,
Okay, tell us
that's a
about
great
that.
point. The reason I love it too isn't just because I know it binds the breast weakly, which should make it safer, right? The
And you
reason
say weekly, you mean not strongly, not weekly, like Monday through Friday, right? Just to be
You're
clear.
so right. You're so right.
Okay.
It's WEAK.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weak binder not a potent binder
Yeah.
of the estrogen receptor alpha in the breast. The other reason I love it is because I didn't have to go through all these toxicity studies. Estriol that I'm using has been given in Europe and Asia safely for 40 years.
Mm.
And
At the same doses, same levels for the
they were
same purpose or different
they
purpose?
were treating hot flashes. They were treating vaginal dryness with
Mm.
estriol. They weren't checking whether it helped cognition. I'm like, it helps cognition. You need to do testing. And so that's what we're doing. We're giving it at the same doses. I'll tell you, the dose I used though in multiple sclerosis was a little bit higher than what is used in just menopausal women. But it's really in the same range, and it's really quite close.
Mm.
But it's been used in Europe for 40 years and been shown to be safe. The doses we're using have been used in Europe for 40 years and been shown to be safe, and Asia too. And
Interesting.
so the new thing is just to show that based on all the work we did in MS and also the menopause models, and now we've got data in, of course, menopausal women. We're treating hundreds now across the entire United States with CleopatraRX through telemedicine. Go to the website. A lot of people can't come to UCLA. They can't see me in the comprehensive menopause program. So that was the incubator. It was UCLA, the comprehensive menopause program. I started it. I took this from MS to women with menopause 2 years ago. And based on that, we just took off. Now we took it around the country through CleopatraRX. You go to the website, you sign up you talk to a nurse. She screens you with the usual contraindications. I mean, if you've had breast cancer, we're not going to treat you because I still don't want to go there. And if you've had a stroke or a heart attack, we're not going to treat you. Actually, you shouldn't smoke either. But those are the usuals. And so we don't do that. And so we basically have designed a blister pack for menopausal women. It's a national compounding pharmacy. It's not Tom, Dick, and Harry's pharmacy on Main Street. It's a compounding pharmacy with the same protocol, an East Coast, a West Coast. They ship it directly to patient's house because I know what they're going to get. Because we make a blister pack and we load it with estriol in the morning, and then we give the progesterone at night. We tailor their doses. We we start them out with a starting dose. Our nurse calls them and says, how are you doing? We don't give you 2 bottles and you're on your way. We actually make them a blister pack, like the birth control pills when we were young. We all took, birth control was in blister packs. They're changing those hormones. That's what they're doing in those. So we have AM, PM blister packs so they can get compliance. They remember to take it. It's easy. They're getting estradiol in the morning, progesterone at night. We tailor the doses for each individual. It's not a one size fits all, and we follow them. And by the time we're at 3 months, they've got this dose and they love it. And we don't change it after the 3 months because they're just doing great. We also check their cognition with a quiz I designed. We do it at month 0, month 6, month 12, and we see this improvement occurring with objective outcomes that's helping their brain function. So it's really exciting.
Wow, wow. Okay, so forgive this silly question, but I'm going to ask it. If we're on a patch, I'm on a patch and progesterone. And so this would be a swap, right?
Yeah,
so
it's a swap.
Pearl Pack is a swap.
That's
your
right.
protocol is a swap. And it
That's
still
right.
would manage, for me, I'm postmenopausal, but a perimenopausal woman who is in the thick of hot flashes, she's going to get the benefit of reduction of hot
Exactly.
flashes.
That's what I meant by our nurses talk to them. So I will tell you, some people, the patch is so strong. And when some women go off the patch, if they've got migraines, they'll get headaches in about 2 or 3 weeks. It's just strong and it's powerful. When you just cut it off, it's not good. And you don't take anything, which we're going to get them through that. And sometimes women who have hot flashes, they're going to come back. And so we know that. So when we treat them, we say, you want to get off that patch for obvious reasons. It's a high dose. It's continuous. You're always exposed to it. And you go to our pill. And so what we do is we say, keep the patch in your hand. When you get estradiol, the blister pack with estradiol and progesterone shipped to your house, take your patch off, quit taking the progesterone they gave you for that. Use ours. It's going to be on blister pack A and PM. The next day, take the patch off. The next day, start ours. And we will start it on a higher dose because I know you've been exposed to so much estradiol with that patch. So we don't start low and work you up. We'll like to start you higher because we know you're going to need it. We know what's going to happen. And that's when the nurse keeps calling you and saying, how you doing? You're getting some hot flashes. Nice. Okay, we're going to add this. That's what we do. We get you through that so we can switch you over. Another interesting point, though, too, I want to mention is the difference between the patch and the pills. So you might wonder, why am I going from a patch to a pill? Is it okay
because I really like a patch. Go ahead.
Yeah.
But I do take a progesterone pill every night. So
you do. And the reason you take that, because anybody taking an estrogen has to take progesterone with it to counter the effects of the estrogen on the uterus. Only women who've had a hysterectomy don't take progesterone. And some of them like progesterone because it helps them sleep. But that's why you give it at night. That's why you give it at night.
How come nobody told me about progesterone 10 years ago,
Yes, you can sleep. It helps. I know. And there's 100 milligrams. There's 200 milligrams. So anyway, the patch versus the pill is interesting. So back in those old 1990 studies, WHI, they had estradiol. They were actually giving it orally for a long while. And these women were getting blood clots. Right. So that's one of the risks.
That's why everyone's sort of moved towards a patch, right?
Exactly.
To not take the pill anymore. Okay.
That's right. And the reason is because when estradiol was taken as a pill in those old WHI studies, the pill, you swallow it, it goes to your stomach, and then the liver conjugates it. That's what the liver does when you eat things. It takes it, puts conjugates a group to it to change it. And it goes from estradiol to estrone, yet another estrogen, but it's a metabolite of estradiol. Estrone, that metabolite of estradiol the liver made, is the thing that causes clots. That's why you're taking a patch. Nobody should be giving estradiol pill anymore. No one, because we know that it predisposes to blood clots in the legs, and they can go to the lung and brain. So
but
nobody does that.
An estradiol pill is different than an estradiol.
That's right. So the question is, why aren't you? And the drug companies did a good job with making estradiol pill into a patch. It wasn't a cream because they knew it wasn't going to be absorbed well. It wasn't going to be consistent and potent. So they had to make a transdermal patch to get it into the blood so that it would stop the hot flashes. Now, estriol, different story. So in estriol, it's a different chemical. It's well known. This is the chemistry of estriol is not patented. I'm just using a blister pack and I'm using it for the brain. But everybody knows, the chemists all knows the structure of estradiol versus estriol and estrone, the metabolite of estradiol. So with estriol, when you take it orally and it goes to the stomach and it goes to the liver can't put that group on it because it's a different chemical structure. So you can't make that estrone metabolite from estriol. So it's not going to cause clotting. And that is why still to this day, after 40 years, the Europeans still give estriol as a pill. They always will, because there's no reason to make it into a patch because it doesn't cause clots when you give it orally.
And if I remember, not being advised not to take the estradiol pill because it goes through the blood-brain barrier, and that was like a big no-no, right? Versus the
No,
patch
we
is
want it to go through the
transdermal.
blood-brain barrier because actually the hot flash's regulatory center
Okay.
is in the brain, and it's got to go through the blood-brain barrier to that hot flash center
Oh, so
to
maybe
stop the
it's
hot
vaginal
flashes.
estrogen that does it. What?
Vaginal estrogen is
Okay.
interesting. Vaginal estrogen, as we all know, menopause is bad for a lot of things. It's also bad for the vaginal linings and the urethral, the urinary linings. It's called the genitourinary syndrome of menopause. The vaginal thing is vaginal dryness. You can get vaginal atrophy. With urinary symptoms, you can get more likely to get urinary tract infections. So it's bad. It's bad because you want the cells to be young, plump, making secretions, doing what they're supposed to do all their life. All of a sudden, you have no estrogen. That's bad. So one way to treat it is you can give these systemic treatments, but some people can't take them. They can't take this, like if they've had breast cancer, they shouldn't be taking either one of them. I just estradiol or estriol, period. It's just, I'm do no harm, safety first. We just don't do it. If somebody does, they can't. I'm not going to do it with our company. But anyway, so with respect to the vaginal problem, though, that you can still take estradiol as that vaginal suppository, the vaginal application, because it will just stay local. It doesn't get out from the vaginal line. It's kind of like putting something on your skin. Actually, the vagina is just an in pouching of the skin, really. That's all it is.
Even
And
though it's
there's
a mucous membrane.
you just don't absorb out of there enough. When you put it intravaginally, you don't absorb enough to, stop hot flashes or hurt your breast or help your brain or anything. So you can do that. You can, and even with ours, estriol, you can still do vaginal estradiol. With estradiol, I think you can add it on. I will tell you though, those two, both estradiol patch and estriol pill, they will both help with vaginal dryness. You'll have to take it about 6 months. And so you might want to use those inserts and those creams, vaginal application for a while to get you through that.
Top to
But you,
bottom, because you're now going from a much lower dose of estrogen and then form of estriol. Make sure I keep them together, right? So the body is adjusting to that. That's why it takes
well, the
longer.
dose is not a dose thing. It's just that it's the thing is, that's a good question. So you're asking me when you go from the patch. This is interesting. You're asking me when you go from the patch to the pill, will the
Right.
vaginal dryness come back?
Or it's a different kind of estrogen, so
I
it
don't think it's going to
responds
come
differently.
back. Honestly,
Okay.
estriol's really good for stopping vaginal dryness, and also for when you see it is when people first start. So when people
Okay.
have been on nothing, I can just tell you the time course is kind of known. When you start on estradiol patch from nothing, it'll help with hot flashes in about 1 to 3 months. Okay,
Got it.
with the
Okay.
estriol, which is less potent than estradiol patch for that, it will help in about, instead of 1 to 3 months, it'll help in about 2 to 4 months, just a little bit delayed. For vaginal dryness, that takes a little longer than hot flashes. That'll take about 4 to 6 months for those two.
We don't want to, those who've been on the patch, we don't want to lose that work that we've done because
Well,
that
you
is
can use, if
no
you really
fun.
need it, I think the
Too
estriol is
much.
going to come in and help fine because you've already got that on board.
That
But
base
it's when
there,
you
yeah.
start from nothing that it takes time for both of them to start working. But in
Okay.
this case, you're just going to switch it out, and I think you'll be fine. Well,
Wow.
we do it all the time. We actually do it all the time because the women don't want to stay on estradiol that long. They're worried.
Interesting. I know. I mean, it was a big decision for me personally. I didn't go on until I was 59 because I didn't want to miss 10-year window. Um, and I wanted to have those brain benefits, that we know come from estrogen. But I think it's really interesting. Your work is very, very interesting, because long-term effects, right, of the brain. And
Absolutely. And
as
even
you say,
short
the
term, you've got to
reduction
be
of
able,
cognitive performance as we get older.
well, you've got to be able to have your cognitive performance every day. Look at your job.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
you
I'm
can't, it is,
investors. Rhonda, come on.
I mean,
I gotta
you got to
think.
be on it, and it's a competitive world. That's just the way it is. You're in a boardroom. You've got to be able to do it, and it's for you. It's both. You need to be able to function now, and you don't want to get Alzheimer's later. It's just both.
Yeah.
You've got to have both.
I gotta have
And
all the things working. Yes.
I want to say one thing about the 10-year rule.
Yeah, please.
That's just basically, it's all based off of estradiol, and it's all based on its toxicities and the concerns about cardiovascular, the concern about breast cancer for sure.
Right.
And
And blood
that,
clots, right?
and blood clots. Now, blood clots have really been taken care of because it's a patch. I don't really have a problem with that one anymore, but those others are concerned. And so I want to tell you, I've been in a lot of scientific meetings with this, that you have a group of really great experts. They come together and they have a consensus statement, and they say, well, what's the age? And we say, well, they say it's 10 years or it's 60 years old. This is arbitrary. It doesn't change the day after your birthday. That This is
Like,
not
hurrah! That's it.
50. I
We're
was I was
closed.
I was fine to take it, and now I can't take it yesterday. That is
Right.
not the way the body works. The body doesn't really listen to what we say in those rooms or those meetings. The bottom line is it's a continuum. It's a shade of gray all the way along. And I will tell you, it's also not a one size fits all. So I've got some women they're easily 62 or 3, and they're much less of a risk to treat than somebody who's 53, because they don't smoke, they don't drink much alcohol, they exercise, they eat right, they do all these things. And it's just, but I will say, for science, we do have to have guidelines. As the leading medical doctors, we have to make a guideline. We just have to.
Right.
But just so you know, it's not that it all changes. It's just a gradual change, and it's considering a lot of other factors that's going on with your health.
Right.
So it's an individualized decision about what your risks are. And I just feel bad for somebody who's 61 and they think they're just going to write them off, because that isn't fair. I mean, they may have, and by the way, it's so interesting. There's a lot of, there's a difference, actually. This is really starting to emerge. There's a difference between chronological age and biologic age.
Yes.
Chronological age is when's your birthday, and you know how old that is. But there's now DNA tests that people can do. That's not my field of expertise, but I've been in a lot of meetings where they're talking about this. There's biological aging, which your biological age it could be worse, it could be better, older, it could be younger than your
Right.
chronological age. So you can't just put people in a box and say, okay, you're 60 years old, or you've been on,
On the earth this long, right?
yeah, and everything's going to change that next birthday, right? It's just not true. The other thing I do want to emphasize, that earlier is better. And so I'm glad that you did it at 59, but it would have been better to do it at 51, at
I
52.
know. I know. My mom, because of her experience and what she was told and had a hysterectomy, she told me that that was not an option. I mean, that's why I went the nutrition path, and what levers can I pull to feel
Good,
better? So
good.
lifestyle, and I'm not mad about that, because pharmaceutical without lifestyle is not really pulling all the levers either.
That's
So,
right.
you
That's
know,
right. What I always say, and I think, just the healthy. I don't like taking things away from people. I think they like food. I think go for it. I think fried food's bad, and just a healthy kind of Mediterranean sort of diet. But I think that I'm big on exercise, physical exercise, cognitive exercise. I think of it like this: if you think about men and trying to lift weights and get their muscles to be big, it's like, okay, if they lift weights, their muscles get big. You can see it. It's not like our brains. This is complicated. Their muscles are big. You see it. Okay. If they take testosterone, their muscles are big. But what if they lift weights and do testosterone? Their muscles get synergistic. And so this is where I see estriol with Pearl Pack, is if they can take you need some help. You can't just exercise your way out of not getting cognitive issues. That's asking too much to people. That's not
although
going
I
to
did
happen.
some heavy lifting with dumbbells yesterday, and man, my brain was really doing good, getting all that blood going.
Well, you know
So
what? It's more than just blood. There's two mechanisms why it's good. You want to know?
yeah,
One is
yeah.
what you said. When you get the blood circulating, the cardiovascular, it is good for your brain. But there's another one. It's so interesting. The muscle actually makes a substance called brain-derived neurotrophic factor. It's something that was discovered in the brain. You also secrete it from muscles when you exercise. And so
Mm,
you've got direct things from the muscle chemical to the brain. It's good for your brain. And then you've got the increased circulation, which is bringing good things good to your brain. Two ways. Exercise is good for the brain. So the byline, I think, is what's been said is 3 times a week for exercise. Get your heart rate up. Don't just stroll around I'm just saying, for 30 minutes. 30 minutes to 45 minutes, 3 times a week, and get your heart rate up. Make it a little hard. Push
yeah,
yourself. And
yeah.
that's really good. And lifting weights is, of course, good for the osteoporosis and bone things. That's true.
All the good things that come from that. I'm with you on that. Okay, good. All right, this is so good. Let's see. I wrote down a couple things. I just want to make sure I ask you. Research being done on the X chromosome and how that will help for women for generations to come. That's
Yeah.
exciting. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so my other hat that I wear is when I look at sex differences between women and men to see why is MS more frequent in women? Why is Alzheimer's more frequent in women? Why are women getting these cognitive issues when they're otherwise healthy of menopause? Well, that's obviously loss of estrogen. But the question, what is it about a woman's brain other than losing estrogen? We know estrogen is protective. We know losing it's bad. We know we need to find a way to replace it that is not the patch that we can actually tolerate for a long time. So the other variable here is with the hormones, it's estrogen in women, testosterone in men. But the other variable is women are XX and men are XY. That's a
Mm-hmm.
fact. So the question is, could there be something about XX that's bad? And so we had a very big paper in October 15th. It went, I think, almost 500 outlets around the world. I was in Germany at the Albert Einstein Neuroscience Institute presenting it when it came out on October 15th. And it's really cool because it took us 4 years to do this paper in Science Translational Medicine, very high impact journal. But the point is, when you have two X chromosomes, men have one, it's XX and XY. They have one X chromosome, we have two. Most genes are X inactivated where you only express, even though you're a woman, you express one. So it's still in balance for most X chromosome genes. But there's a few of them, there's a handful, and they escape this inactivation. So you really do get a dose effect. There's a few genes where women express two of them and men express one. It's a dose effect.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. So now what are those genes and what do they do? So what we found out, there is a gene that is one of those genes. They escape X inactivation, which means we are expressing two of them, and men are expressing one. We're expressing twice as much of this stuff. And this gene we found is expressed in a brain cell that is the resident immune cell of the brain. It's been known forever. This is the immune cell of the brain. It's called microglia. That's a detail, but it's the immune cell of the brain. And when we express two X chromosomes in that cell, this immune cell of the brain, it's bad. And it predisposes to inflammation in the brain and neurodegeneration. And this is the point of the paper. This is what leads to women having more MS, Alzheimer's, brain aging than men do, because they've got two of these X chromosomes expressed in that cell of the brain.
Mm.
Now, I want to finish this story. It's really pretty cool. Step back to evolution. You're going to like this. So you think about that. Evolution evolved. This is the hypothesis of what have stayed. This is what I've written about. XX is females, female mice running in the woods or jumping out of the ponds or whatever they do. This is evolution. There's been a selection bias so that they have really good immune systems. They also get lupus and rheumatoid arthritis and psoriasis too. They have really good immune systems, maybe even overreactive. They've got good immune, probably to take care of those babies when they're first born. It's all about selection, survival of the fittest, right?
Protection, survival, right.
You got to make those babies and you got to make sure they survive. The mother's got to. And so her X chromosome is going to be pushing for a lot of inflammation so she doesn't die of an infection when that baby's little. And it can't be too much and you can get autoimmune diseases. Well, estrogen comes in though, and it kind of modulates it. Estrogen is kind of anti-inflammatory and it's neuroprotective. So it's held in balance pretty good. XX is pushing one way, estrogen is pushing back. What happens in menopause?
Oh,
We lost.
no estrogen.
That's right. And so you get the XX is unopposed.
Wow.
So I think menopause is disrupting the evolutionary balance between XX being bad and estrogen being good.
Because we weren't supposed to live this long.
That's right. That's right. And it didn't matter if you died at 50, it didn't matter. And I will say there's hope for men too, because there is also the same thing going on. I do believe the XY is in balance with testosterone. And they have andropause, and that's not good either for their brains, but that's a slow thing. So it's just so interesting. I always focus what I do on the reality. The reality situation is men and women are different. Their immune systems differ, their brains differ, and they're evolved to do a certain task. And now it's a little bit different because we know all the roles are changing. We're getting quite equal now, which is a wonderful thing. I'm totally for that. God knows I am. I'm a feminist actually, but I'm just saying it evolved from a different stage where women were really, they're going to have the babies, they're going to be home with the babies, and the men were, they're foraging and getting things and bringing it back. If they died, I'm just saying they died. Women devote. I heard a talk. It was Swell in New York by Naomi Watts and some of the others, and they were saying it was so interesting. They were saying
bars there. Did you get one in your bag?
You were there at the Swell?
The bars, our bars.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Oh, that was you. I just put two and two together. That's great. That's so cool. It was a cool meeting, wasn't it?
Oh, Swell is amazing. Yes.
Yeah. But it was cool about how much women put into each pregnancy. We devote years and years to each pregnancy. And so we've got to maintain the baby through all these mechanisms. So we survive, the baby survives. Men can go up, 5 minutes and they could go do some more. I'm just saying.
They're going to go make another baby somewhere else. Yeah.
So the evolutionary pressures are different. We've got to survive that whole thing. Isn't it interesting?
So interesting. How do we pack all this information into 38 minutes? It's just incredible. I love
Well,
it.
you did a good job. you
No,
you had your homework ready and you asked the right questions. That's how
you've
we did
done
it.
all the good job, all the heavy work. Okay, so I could keep you like for 2 more hours, but I know you probably have some work to do. But
Yeah.
what tips do you have that you would want women to know as we kind of wrap this up, so they can walk away with actionable things or something
Yeah.
that they can really land based on what we talked about?
Yeah, I think the main thing is for the majority of the women who don't have breast cancer or strokes, I'm just saying you should not be estrogen deficient a third of your life. Estrogen is very, very good. It makes us feel good. We should be on it. That's number one. Number two is when you do it though, you've got to be smart and you got to do something that's safe. And fortunately now, hopefully we can not just continue to spend all of our time talking about something from the 1990s, which is estradiol and estradiol patch. Fortunately, now we can actually move on to the next generation. We can have an option that is HRT plus. It doesn't bind the receptor in the breast strongly. It can help you with the brain. It can help with the other things. And I hope mine is the first of many. We need more. We need more HRTs. Give me a break. We need
Well,
some that are.
we're talking about hormone therapy now. I mean,
Yeah, well,
thank
that's
goodness.
Oprah.
Right.
Thank God for Oprah, right? I'm just saying.
And Dr.
Yeah,
Mary Claire, others. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. Halle Berry, Mary Shriver. These are women who are making things happen for the good of all of us, and you too, and me too. We've all got to come together. Like I said on Oprah, I said, we've got to have politicians, journalists, podcasters. We've got to have scientists, doctors, and lab people. We've all women have got to do it for each other because we're finally in a place of power at the age of 50, 55, where we can do this and have some impact. And it hasn't been done before, and it won't happen until we do. And I don't blame men. They don't understand it. They don't get it. I'm not blaming them at all, but we get it and we know what it is and we got
We
to
can
fix it.
own our bodies, our brain, and our own experience for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
I love it.
So make sure you go to our website. It's CleopatraRX.com. You can sign up with a nurse. She can start to screen you. We can get you through our national nurse network, doctor network, compounding pharmacy network. But you do have a choice that you don't have. And the women who don't have hot flashes anymore, they still have cognitive issues. There is a solution. But I'm fine. If you have really bad hot flashes, that's the only thing you're concerned about, and you want to be on estradiol patch for a few years, go for it. I don't have a problem with that. It's fine. But it's bigger than that. It's just more than just hot flashes. This is a bigger problem.
Yeah.
Menopause disrupts a lot of things.
I love that. I love that we're in a place where we can even consider not just talking about hot flashes anymore, right? We can
Exactly.
the conversation has advanced, and that's really, really exciting. Well, I'm only in Berkeley, so next time I'm in LA, I'm gonna let you know and we'll go out and have lunch and go like 4 more hours on this.
Absolutely. I love San Francisco. My daughter's there.
Oh,
So
good. Well, you come up
yeah,
my way. I always say you come
I
to
will.
me.
I'll come your way. That sounds
Okay,
great.
beautiful.
Thank you.
Dr. Rhonda, thank you so much. Again, if women want to learn more, go to CleopatraRX.com. You have a great quiz there too about.
Yeah, it's the brain fog quiz. It's the 6 questions of what menopausal women have problems with. It's about processing speed, verbal memory. You answer 6 questions and rate yours as severe, moderate, milder, or I don't have a problem with that. And we lock that in. And then if you start Pearl Pack, we can then tell you, that's the blister pack. We can tell you in 6 months, 12 months, well, this is what you said 6 months ago. This is what you said 12 months ago. And if you take the brain fog quiz and you don't have any difficulties with all of them, we're probably not the right thing for you. But I think 70% of the people do. I know they do.
Right?
They
I'm
do.
heading over there right now. Okay, thank you for being here. Thank you for all of your work, your dedication, your years around this. Grateful for you. To be continued,
Thank you
okay?
so much. Thank
All
you.
right. Be well, everyone. MenoWell. See you next time. Take
Okay.
care. Thank you.
Bye-bye.